What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rip City Rundown. I believe this is episode 21 of the podcast. I'm glad you're back with us. We've got a lot of topics to talk about today, and let's waste no time and start discussing them. Some things we'll be discussing today on the August 9th podcast. I'm recording this August 9th. Don't know if it'll come out August 9th or August 10th. We'll talk about CJ McCollum, the fact that we might not be shopping him at all. We'll talk about some failed free agent signings. We'll talk some summer league. We'll just talk some young guys in general, even guys that aren't playing in the summer league. And then we'll just talk about the Blazers offseason as a whole and see if it was a success or non-success. I'm pretty sure you know the answer of that before I even do it. And then I've got a little mailbag coming from the Instagram. It's currently live. I just put the question thing up just about 20 minutes ago, so we might not see many questions, but I'm hoping we see a couple, and that'll be at the end of the podcast, so that'll be going live then. Hopefully questions start flowing in as I'm recording this. Just some quick things I got to say about the channel and then about the Spotify and just about the podcast in general right now. Is a very good podcast showing last episode. We had 559 views. One of the best podcasts we've had all time. On the last podcast, I was really encouraged with the interactions on that. I think it's the second best podcast of all time. The only other one was the previewing of the Nuggets series. But, I'm really liking where the podcast is going right now. Spotify, remember, you can always go watch there. That had pretty good numbers, probably the third or fourth best podcast numbers for the Spotify. And that was just 5 days ago on the podcast, but let's hop right into what we're talking about right now. And that's CJ McCollum. And a report from Jason Quick comes up. As I'm talking, I'm going to try to pull up the article. But CJ McCollum is not currently being actively shopped right now, and to a lot of Blazer fans that could be extremely disappointing. So I pull up the article right now, August 6th, that came out, and it's just titled "What I'm Hearing and What I'm Thinking About the Blazers Offseason: The Signs Damian Lillard Will Encounter at the Crossroads." So I really can't read the whole thing because I'm not a subscriber, but I do know that the Blazers are not currently actively shopping CJ McCollum. The quote goes, "It sounds like Portland is not actively shopping McCollum. The general tone I've heard is the Blazers won't move him just to have him on a different look next season." And that honestly makes a lot more sense than a lot of people think. And I'm not going to say it's the smart move, but it's not the worst move, because it's not like we're, no matter what, not trading CJ McCollum. It's just we're not going to be the ones to actively shop him. If someone comes in and gets CJ McCollum, then I think we'll listen. But all it's saying is we're not currently actively shopping CJ McCollum. And again, that's probably disappointing to a lot of people. But the Blazers aren't just going to make a move just to make a move. They're only going to make a move to make him better. At least that's what I hope it is. Neil Olshey, He could do some things that I don't agree on, and he might just be doing this because he loves CJ McCollum, which I hope it's not the reason why. I hope it's just we haven't had a good offer for CJ McCollum. Obviously the 76ers, at this point, the Ben Simmons thing, probably not going to happen. Ben Simmons has said he doesn't want to go to Portland, which, again, I don't think that really matters, but Portland might be a little more inclined to not go after him after hearing that statement. And then the 76ers look like they don't even want CJ McCollum. They are actively pursuing Damian Lillard. They're waiting for the Damian Lillard situation to blow up, which at this rate it probably will. And they're waiting to throw a huge offer for Damian Lillard. So the 76ers are probably out of it. I've seen a lot of rumors for Pascal Siakam, but Siakam's in one of the teams rumored for Siakam to go to. I don't remember them exactly, but the Blazers were not on the list of 3 or 4 teams. So that's out of the question. But not actively shopping CJ McCollum for the Blazers is it's hard to wrap my head around because I think that the Blazers really have to do that. Like, that's the only way the Blazers are going to get better. But it looks like right now we're just going to run it back, and just a lot of things have gone on this offseason all over social media and stuff, like Norman Powell talking about how he's now running from the grind. Yusuf Nurkic retweeting tweets saying he's going to be an all-star. So the confidence, at least among players not named Damian Lillard, seems high. But if your best player, I mean, this could turn into an Aaron Rodgers with the Packers situation. You've got a great, or like in the end, the Blazers are a great organization in the way. They treat their players not the worst. Well, actually, that was the wrong thing to say. They're a great organization, but they have bad management. I mean, you look at the Packers. Aaron Rodgers loves Green Bay. He likes the organization. He hates the front office. Damian Lillard, I would assume, loves Portland and loves the organization, but he's probably starting to get a little frustrated with this front office and the fact that Neil Olshey is still in this front office. I mean, there's only been 4 people that have been a GM since 2012. Neil Olshey is one of them. The other 3 have all won championships. That's all you got to know about the fact that Neil Olshey has stayed way too long at Portland. So that was something that when I saw CJ McCollum's not getting actively shopped, I wasn't surprised, but I was a little disappointed. We just did see the report earlier this summer, a couple weeks ago, that the Blazers weren't looking for picks in return for CJ McCollum, which made sense, and that was something that I was completely fine with seeing. But no CJ for anything is a little disappointing. But moving on, another thing with the front office and another failure was the fact that Damian Lillard wanted Kelly Oubre and pitched Portland to Kelly Oubre, but Kelly Oubre said, nah, let me go to Charlotte, which is not looking good. And another thing that happened in free agency, I'll get into in a bit, just know that I'm about to say something more about free agency, about people not wanting to come to Portland. And the fact that the Blazers couldn't get Oubre and then also couldn't get Nicholas Batum is quite disappointing because it just shows that no one wants to come to Portland. They would rather go live in Charlotte. Believe me, Charlotte's a great city. I've been there plenty of times. But still, it's Charlotte, and it's a team that has some young talent, but like they haven't proven anything as an organization. And that just shows that the Blazers haven't either. No one wants to come to Portland. It's a problem we've had for so long. I mean, the most expensive person we've brought in, I think, in the past 10 years is like that we've brought in through straight free agency. Now, like the best player we've signed in free agency is probably like Norman Powell, but he was already experienced with the Blazers because we traded for him. The best player we've signed just straight up from another team, I think it's Evan Turner, or the most expensive player. That's gross. That's very depressing. So from the Athletic article, it says Portland had limited tools, only the TPMLE, which is the taxpayer mid-level exception, and that wasn't enough to lure Nicholas Batum back for a second tour as a Blazer. He went to the Clippers for the minimum instead. And then it continues saying they also couldn't convince Kelly Oubre to take the taxpayer mid-level exception, even though Damian Lillard told me he made a pitch to him at the end of the regular season. Now, Oubre ended up getting 2 years, $26 million, so he got a lot more money than he could have got with the Blazers. So that one makes a little sense. But the Batum going back to LA might just be he really likes LA, but he decided not wanted to come. And then obviously it continued in the article that the Blazers aren't actively shopping CJ McCollum despite Norman Powell returning. And another thing in free agency that I saw was reported, not sure if it was true, but the Blazers wanted to bring back Hassan Whiteside. Instantly I look at that and I'm red flagging that, but that's not even the worst part. The worst part is Hassan Whiteside didn't want to come here. And again, that's just the issue with the Blazers. No one wants to come to Portland. And even Hassan Whiteside, who went to Utah. He's going to Utah over Portland. That really hurts. He's not going to LA. He's not going to New York. He's not going to Chicago. He's not going to Miami over Portland. He chose Utah for a minimum. So that's all you got to know about people not wanting to play in Portland. And the smoke is billowing. As you like to say, the fire could be beginning, which is not good for the Blazers coming up. Moving on, getting off the sour tone. I lied at the beginning of the podcast by saying that this was an action-packed podcast because there's actually not a lot of action to go through. But going on a high note is Damian Lillard won gold. Damian Lillard won gold for Team USA in Tokyo, beating France in the final, beating Nick Batum, who didn't want to join the Blazers, so suck it, Nick. But I think he had like 11 points in the gold medal game. He didn't play the best in this Olympics. He was honestly probably the worst defender on the team, which kind of sucks. A lot of people were seeing how bad Dame was defensively, but he did show up in the second half. He had like 2 points in the first half, had 9 in the second half. Was that second scorer in the second half other than Kevin Durant, who ended up having 29. But they get the win, get the gold. It was awesome to see for Dame. A really funny moment after was the fact that all the Team USA guys were making fun of Dame for being pissed off that he had to wear Team USA Nike gear in the closing ceremonies. So I found that pretty funny. And then reports after it was saying that throughout the Olympics, Dame was playing with an abdominal injury. And he's going to get that checked out when he comes back. So a little worrying and concerning there. But it's not going to be anything that's going to be too bad, hopefully. But that was reported by Shams about the Olympics. Great to see Dame being a winner. And that's all I got to say. Dame's a winner. Congratulations to him. Moving on to Summer League. The Blazers opened up Summer League it was either yesterday or 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday against the Hornets. These are two teams that are very popular within the Summer League due to certain personnel players they have. But the Blazers took the win 93-86. They go to 1-0. The Blazers have always been known to have great Summer League teams, which is quite annoying because we don't have Summer League teams that are good because we have good young players. It's because for some reason we just bring in a bunch of veterans just to make ourselves look good. Obviously, we're going to win against the Hornets, who've got some pretty popular guys. James Bouknight obviously was the 11th or 12th pick in the draft. Kai Jones was a big pick in the draft. Nick Richards out of Kentucky is there. Vernon Carey out of Duke. But the main guy that gets all the popularity is LiAngelo Ball, who had a great game. 16 points in 16 minutes on 5 of 8 from 3. So give a little round of applause to LiAngelo Ball. But the Blazers come out with the win. It was actually Antonio Blakeney in 18 minutes had 27 points. 9 of 10 from the field, 2 of 3 from the triple range, 3-ball, whatever you want to say, and 7 of 7 from the line. But 27 points on the bench for Blakeney, that was pretty awesome to see. Some guys that actually matter for our team that could make the final roster. Kenneth Reid had 8 points, 8 rebounds, 3 of 6 from the field. Michael Beasley, don't think he'll make the roster, but he's another reason why we have a super popular team. 3 of 11 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, and 9 points. CJ McCollum, 8 points, 3 of 8 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. And then our rookie, Greg Brown, went 4 of 8 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, 2 boards, 9 points, and a couple beautiful dunks. So that was fun to see, a very entertaining game from Portland. We continue our Summer League season, Summer League stretch, as we play against the Clippers on Tuesday night at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPNU. The Clippers, I'm not sure who their big Summer League guys are. I can't even think about anybody in the draft that they had, but that's who we'll be playing. Nasir Little is actually not playing in the Summer League now, so that's a great thing to see. They said he was dominating Summer League practices, and he just had no need to even play Summer League. So that's a good thing to see. And that moves me on into my next topic, which is guys at the end of the bench, the young guys. Who should we keep? Who has a bright future? And who I really like. And I'll start off talking about Nasir Little. So as I pull up his stats from last year, Nasir Little is probably one of the more talented young guys based on raw athleticism and raw talent in, quite honestly, maybe the league. I mean, this guy is an absolute pure athlete. He came into college as a top 3 prospect and a consensus top 5 overall pick, most likely, for the draft that he ended up entering. And that was the draft with Zion, RJ, Ja. And he had a down year in college. A lot similar to Greg Brown. As I talked about in a previous podcast, I believe. High school recruit, down college year, and comes in as just a raw, absolute athlete that needs time to develop. But Nasir Little is coming into year 3 now, and year 3 is when a lot of Blazer players take the big jump. I think CJ had a big jump in year 3. I don't know if that was his most improved player or the year he took the jump in the playoffs, but just know Blazer players like to make their jump into the rotation into key spots in year 3. And I think Nasir Little could have a really good, underrated, sneaky good year next year where he's averaging like 8 to 12 points a game and shooting the ball high 30s and for 3. I mean, his jump from his rookie year to his sophomore year, he averaged 3 points a game his rookie year, but his shooting was atrocious. He shot 43% from the field and 23% from 3. That's just downright atrocious, and 63% from the free throw line. His jump from rookie year to sophomore year was amazing shooting the ball. He only averaged 4.5 points a game, but he shot the ball extremely well. 47% from the field, 35% from 3, so a 12% jump, and a 14% jump on free throws, up to 80%. So Nasir Little, in my opinion, is in for a very sneaky good year for the Portland Trail Blazers, and I look for him to have an absolute stellar season, and I hope he has an absolutely stellar season because the Blazers for sure need it. Another guy I want to talk about is Anthony Simons, who I hope to make a jump. Anthony Simons, as I pull up his stats right now, also improved majorly in this past year, especially as a three-point shooter. So Anthony Simons' basketball reference, for some reason, doesn't want to pop up for me. So as we wait, here we go, we got it. So Anthony Simons, his third year last year, and he made a big jump last year, at least shooting the ball. He dropped in points per game because he also dropped in minutes. He averaged 3 less minutes, but he shot the ball 42% from the field and then 43% from 3, an 11% jump from 3. That is absolutely insane for him, and he upped his attempts from 3 to 4.5 and obviously made at least one more than last year. He's going to be coming in. He's going to man that bench unit along with hopefully Nasir Little. And I hope he has a stellar season as well. Obviously, I hope everyone on the Blazers has a stellar season. But Anthony Simons in particular, I think he can have a very scary good season for the Blazers. I'm thinking like 12 points a game also off the bench. He can be a microwave scorer. His defense improved majorly last year. And he's a guy that I don't think the Blazers, unless we're getting someone super good, should be including in any trade talks. But obviously, Neil Olshey doesn't even do trades at this point, so probably something we don't even need to worry about. But I look at Anthony Simons and Nasir Little next year as two players that if the Blazers are going to make any sort of jump next year, they're going to have to take a step. So those are the two guys I just wanted to quickly touch on right there. And the final question before I do this mailbag, before I see if I got any more questions, and we might not even have any questions. Hopefully you guys on the Instagram did some questions and helped out the podcast with the mailbag. But I saw this article on Blazers Edge, very great website, I love reading it, is did the Blazers take the NBA's biggest step back this offseason? And I'm going to answer that question and then also pose this question to you. Comment down below, did the Blazers take the NBA's biggest step back this offseason? Right there. Did that happen for the Blazers? I'm going to read this thing. It's from Colin Ward-Henniger of CBS Sports. Talk about how the Lakers and the Heat had some of the best off seasons, but he said that the Blazers' failures in appeasing Damian Lillard are highly publicized pleas for helps was atrocious. He said, if Damian Lillard wants to come back from the Tokyo Olympics to a more competitive roster, he's probably not going to be too thrilled right now. The Blazers might still have a move to make, but for now, bringing back Norman Powell on a $90 million deal was the big splash of the offseason, depending on how you feel about Ben McLemore, Cody Zeller, and Tony Snell. The Lillard situation will be monitored intensely over the next couple months as Portland appears no closer to a title than it did last year. And I completely agree with him. Blazers might have had the worst offseason of any NBA team just because their stars unhappy, and they did nada, absolutely zilch about it. So I just wanted to pose that question to you guys down in the comments. If you're still listening at this point in the podcast, I really hope you are. Just answer that question for me, just to let me know and show me you were still listening at this point in the podcast. It means a lot if you did answer the question. The final thing I have for you today, again, a shorter podcast, should be done under the 30-minute mark max, is the fact that I might have a mailbag for you guys. I'm going to the Instagram right now, really hoping some people drop some questions. We go to the mailbag. It's only been up for 36 minutes, so that's all you need to know. These are the real fans, and you will get shouted out. We've got 3 questions. It's a great amount. 3 questions, from a question per 10 minutes for the podcast. The first question is from AJJD2. Let's take a peek at his profile. AJ Dutch. Sorry, AJ, if I'm absolutely butchering this. I'm going to give you a follow back right now, though, because I appreciate the question. You are one of the true fans. You gave a question under 36 minutes, and you were actually the very first one to give a question. But your question is, I know you guys are waiting, who should be first off the bench this season? That's a great question. I'll give you the realistic version, and then I will give you what version I want. This is tough, actually. This is very tough. As I pull up the Blazers roster, obviously I know who's on the roster, but I just want to look at it very in-depthly here. So the realistic starting lineup, I'm not saying this is the one I want, but the realistic starting lineup is Damian Lillard at point guard, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, Robert Covington, and Jusuf Nurkic. That leaves guys coming off the bench such as Derrick Jones Jr., Ben McLemore, Anthony Simons, Nasir Little, Tony Snell, and Cody Zeller. With those players coming off the bench, with the realistic starting lineup, I see our first guy coming off the bench. Wow. That's a terrible bench. So I'll give you Derrick Jones Jr. I think Derrick Jones Jr. is going to get a lot more minutes this year. I think we played really well when he played. I think back particularly, as I always say, to the Los Angeles Lakers game back around Christmas last year, where he put an absolute defensive clinic on LeBron James. And right then and there, I was like, this guy's going to be really good for the team. But then when we traded for Norman Powell, he got dropped out of the rotation. So that's that. But I do think he should be the first guy off the bench. Him or Anthony Simons. The only reason I say not Nasir Little, the only reason I say Derrick Jones Jr. over Anthony Simons is because we already have 3 guards in the lineup. So we need to get a wing in there coming off the bench early, not another guard. The one I would want to do is CJ McCollum coming off the bench. I think he should be our first guy off the bench. Now, the reason this is so unrealistic is because, CJ McCollum is our second best player, most people would say, and he's making $30 million, and you do not want to pay $30 million to a guy coming off the bench. Now, that doesn't mean he's not playing still the second most minutes on the team. That just means he's simply coming off the bench. I think the starting lineup should be Damian Lillard at point guards, Norman Powell at shooting guard, Derrick Jones Jr. at small forward, Robert Covington, and Jusuf Nurkic. That gives us another defensive guy in the starting lineup in Derrick Jones Jr. That gives us not 3 small guards in the starting lineup, and that gives us an absolute sniper, scorer, microwave machine, almost an all-star last year before his injury, coming off the bench in CJ McCollum. And I think that could be really good stuff. We could be cooking with something pretty sexy coming off the bench right there if that was the case. So, to answer your question, AJ, I think CJ McCollum should be the first one coming off the bench. The issue is, that's never going to happen. Next question. Thank you for the question, AJ, by the way. Next question is from Mega 3-Point King. Mega 3-Point King. I don't know why that took so long. You are also getting a follow back. It looks like your name is Enrique. Appreciate that, Enrique, for the question. I'll go ahead and give you a like on a post too. I said we were going under 30 minutes. We might be pushing over 30 minutes because I'm really having fun with these questions so far. His question is from Enrique, a.k.a. Mega 3-Point King. Since the Blazers aren't going to trade CJ McCollum, what should Portland do moving forward with the squad? And that's a question that is super hard to answer in my opinion. Because all the Blazers have left to do with the squad is the 5.9 mid-level exception, which I think should be used, and this is what the Blazers should do going forward. It should be used on Paul Millsap, because I don't think we have that backup 4 right now. I mean, you got Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson and Harry Giles on the roster, but I don't think they are good enough to man some backup 4 at a successful rate like Paul Millsap. So I'll say the Blazers should sign Paul Millsap. That's the only thing really realistically right now without trading anybody that the Blazers could do to get better. And the only way we really get better and the only way we go forward with the squad with a trade is with CJ McCollum. But since the Blazers aren't shopping him, all we can do really is go after Paul Millsap or some other free agent, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. So I'll give you Paul Millsap because that is the guy that I do want us to go after. So thank you, Enrique, for the question. And the final one, this is gonna be a tough name to spell here, tough name to pronounce, and I actually can't pronounce your name because it looks like you are Greek, and I can't understand Greek writing. But your @ is Dimitris_Tazavelis9. Thank you for it, Dimitris. I'm just gonna say your name. You're getting a follow back as well, and your question is exactly what I just said, and I love it. We don't have any depth at power forward. Who do you recommend? I like Millsap. Boom. Love Millsap. I love Millsap for a backup 4. I think he is a great defensive player. He'll knock down some stretch big shots, and he's not coming in to start. He's not getting paid $30 million like he used to be getting paid in Denver, so why not bring him in and be a bench player? He killed us in the playoffs, so why don't we get him to do some of the killing? That's all I got to say. I already went deep in depth on Paul Millsap with Enrique's question. But thank you, Demetrius, for the question. Just 3 questions on the day, guys. Just 3 questions. I'm going to the Instagram, and I'm deleting that from the story, so no more questions will be coming in. And that's all I'm going to have for the podcast. I appreciate you 3 for the questions. Means a lot. You guys all got to follow back. And then if I do another mailbag, make sure to go follow the Instagram at rip.city.rundown. Links in the description on YouTube and Spotify. And also make sure to go follow my Twitter at ripcityrundown_. Again, links in the description on both YouTube and Spotify. So I appreciate those questions. Make sure to go follow, like I just said, if you want to get involved with mailbags in the future. That was just a tiny one. But that's all I'm going to have for episode 21 of the podcast. I think we're approaching like 29 minutes right now, if I'm not mistaken. So I kept my promise, kept it under 30 minutes. I don't think we'll be having any significant news coming out in the future, except maybe we do use that 5.9 mid-level exception to sign somebody. So I don't know when the next big deadline for the Blazers are or for the NBA is. So probably talk Summer League in the next podcast, but make sure to subscribe and share this with some friends. Let's try to get to the same success we had on the last podcast. That would mean a lot. That means this thing is growing, and that's all I'm here to do. So make sure to subscribe. Give it 5 stars if you are on Spotify. I don't even know what you do on Spotify. Download it or something. Give it a play. Even if you're not watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify, give it a play. We're approaching 30 minutes right now. I'm going to keep it under that for you guys. That'll be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace out.